Hello and welcome to episode 60 of the Stateside Soccer Show, emergency podcast here. We were actually planning to spend the whole time talking about NWSL, but then the Inter Miami sanctions came down. So we'll open with that, and then we'll move on to our NWSL stuff. This also means I'm probably not getting a chance to do the closed pyramid this weekend. But you know what? I will just double it up on Monday, probably. I'll probably just do it Monday and talk about both last weekend and this weekend, all in one fell swoop. With me, as always, is Logan Stump.
How's it going? It's nice out here. It's really warm. But
you're looking pretty far out there with your.
I am out of this world, man. I've got my Orlando Pride kit on that I ordered. It's the Astra one, so it's probably my favorite kit that I've ever owned. But
it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So.
But how was your weekend? Your week.
Good. So Thursday week we ended the school year with the kids. So we've got two more days left. Done? Yeah, we got 2 more days left that I have to work. But Tuesday is going to be mostly just kind of checking in, make sure everything's okay, and then Wednesday we have like a breakfast at. Well, it's not really a breakfast. I don't know what it is. It's like a meeting at 11:15 that runs into like a lunch. I have no idea, but. Yeah, we're pretty much done and wrapping up the year, so it's exciting stuff.
I wish I had a school year to end.
It's great.
2 months off of work. That'd be great right now. No, but my vacation's coming up soon, so
that's true. You'll be in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, I'm not going to see you though. I'm just going to say
no.
We don't. Like we said, we don't talk outside.
Yeah, we don't actually know each other very well. Oh gosh.
Well, so I guess we can get into the sanctions here. This is atypical for us because we usually did we did our preview of the games last time we did an episode, which was we recorded Tuesday, released on Wednesday, and we thought, okay, well, we're not talking MLS for another week, and here we are. So we still won't touch on any of the games. We've already previewed those on the other show. This will just be about the sanctions here. I made some graphics for it as well that are sourced as well. So there you go. But yeah, so I guess we can get started with the full sanctions. I'm gonna play it on here real quick. This is a tweet from Tom Bogert. MLS announced sanctions on Inter Miami signing of Blaise Matuidi in 2020. A $2 million fine to Inter Miami. $250,000 fine to Jorge Mas. Paul McDonough suspended through the end of the 2022 season. If you recall, in January, he moved over to Atlanta, back to Atlanta. Reduction of, here's where we get specific, $2,271,250 in allocation money for the 2022 and 2023 seasons. Pretty much ensuring that Miami can't be competitive, right? I mean, that's a pretty hefty, like losing almost $2.5 million of allocation money for 2 straight seasons. It's pretty brutal. What they found out is that this team actually had 5 DPs in 2020 and still lost to Nashville 3-0 in the playoffs. That's just the power of Dax over the power of the power of Miami spending money. One thing I liked about Miami is that I guess they were spending some sort of money, but it looks like they were spending too much money or not accounting the money correctly. I don't know what how we should officially phrase this. They had to know what they were doing. What I find interesting, though, is I'll share this too here. This is Pablo Maurer's update to a Stay-Skull and Tenorio Athletic article, but he's reporting what the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Doug Robinson and ESPN Jeff Carlisle reported back in March 5th, which says Paul McDonough is not involved in the MLS investigation. It says, according to multiple reports, McDonough has been cleared of any wrongdoing. And then we get this. He's suspended through the 2022 season. And then we got this, which is an Atlanta statement yesterday that says effective May 27th, which was Thursday, so they knew about this coming down earlier than the rest of the world. Paul McDonough, Vice President of Soccer Operations, mutually agreed to part ways with Atlanta United. A search for a successor is underway. So what do you make of all this, Logan? When you look at the Paul McDonough stuff, is it just bad information that Jeff Carlisle and Doug Robertson got? Or when they were investigating, did they find out maybe more? I mean, this is a guy that has been in the league. He helped Orlando get launched. He helped Atlanta get launched. Then he went to Miami. Then he went back to Atlanta. And I think some people thought it was surprising that he left Miami in December, which was after only one season. And don't know if maybe this is like a fall guy situation where he knew it was coming, so he just left. And he's like, let me get out of there before they figure this out, or what exactly happened. But I wouldn't think that Paul McDonough would do this. I think he would almost have to be pressured to do this because he's built teams without this. So that's why I'm not sure what they may have found on him that made him get suspended when initially they said he's not even part of the investigation.
Well, that's the one thing I was wondering too. Maybe, and the league is young, so I think that they try to stay out of the limelight with this kind of stuff, because I did see some interesting stuff. I think Doyle might have tweeted it, or it might have been how do you say it? Sideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they tweeted something along the lines of, if you want this league to grow, then making these jokes about the fact that, and not even jokes, making comments about teams should just spend because that's what they should do. They need to spend money and grow this league because that's what they, that's how you grow into like this super league kind of thing that the Premier League has, where you just spend a bunch of money. And they were joking about like, hey, you got 5 DPs. That's fine. Like that's what the league needs to start moving towards, is more of these DP signings so that, they can be competitive in that league. So I think that, looking at this from the outside in, it's tough because you wonder if McDonough had something to do with maybe other violations that they found through the investigation, but they don't want to come out with that and say, hey, he did this with Orlando, he did this with Miami, he also is doing it with Atlanta. You don't want all that, I don't think, coming out of the closet, because then I think you're hurting the image of the league too. So maybe MLS, like MLS has always been, it's been rather like, opaque, I guess. It's not been that where you can see directly through it and it's transparent, because transparency is just not what the MLS has been about. And I think that this is where it hurts. I think that if everything was transparent, then even fans or even people outside of the league or writers or journalists call attention to like, hey, Miami looks like they've got 5 DPs. That's kind of suspicious. It's I think that that's hurt the MLS some. I think that Don Garber needs to have the league be more transparent, because when we can see it as a fans, it's like, okay, we know this is going on. We know this cheating is going on. Let's fix it. Instead of like this whole thing where they've hidden it behind closed doors, and then this all comes out, and who knows how many things he's impacted. Who knows how many clubs he's had some kind of touch to. So it's maybe they find something else in the investigation that they're just not letting on, because I do think it's weird that, initially they come out and say, well, he had nothing to do with this. Maybe it was Atlanta dropping that so Atlanta can cover their butt. Like, hey, let's leak the sources that McDonough is still employed. He won't be fired, so that they can be like, okay, so in case not a lot comes out about him, we can still keep him retained because he does develop a team really well. But I think that it's just got all sorts of weird ring to it. I think that it's just the transparency alone. I think maybe he had a lot more to do with different things that we just don't know about, because the MLS isn't going to let us know.
Do you think these penalties are enough for what they've done?
Yeah, I think they're hefty enough too. That's a lot of money in MLS, especially for a club that, while they do spend, it didn't look like they were spending.
It's essentially a $4 million fine. They have a $2 million fine, and then they have a reduction of almost $2.5 million in allocation money. So you're losing about $4 million that you could potentially have spent, or maybe even $2 million of profits. Like, we don't really know.
and they love DPs, obviously. So I mean that they have a surplus of them, or did, and that's what Jordan. I remember you texted me and was like, Andres Reyes, is he still on their payroll? It's like, no, he's with Red Bulls now, but that's like. But who else? I mean, who else?
Yeah, could you imagine if they still had 4? Like they're like, so we thought we fixed it when we shipped out. Who did they ship out again? I'm trying to figure it. He's been gone. No, it was the other.
Pellegrini.
Yes, yeah. Pellegrini. Ship him out, right? Lose money on him pretty much, and then if they didn't ship out Reyes. Then they'd be like, well, now you still have 4, so we actually have to find you like another, $2 million?
Yeah,
like, I mean, like, what do you... And then they also, on top of that, it's not just those, actually. I got to find the other tweet. I didn't have this one prepared, but our friend Kobe Price from, we had him on to preview this, and we asked him about this kind of stuff beforehand when it was like just announced at that point. Yeah. They also underreported the salaries of Figal, Leo Gonzalez Perez, and Carranza. So what were you doing? Why were you underreporting salaries? That means they could have also have been, if you were underreporting enough, they could have been DPs as well. Like, I mean, it's confusing. Like, what's the benefit of underreporting their salary if they're not a DP player anyway? Like that's what I don't know. But it's interesting that I was actually really surprised that Atlanta let go. Well, I guess I wasn't surprised once the hammer was dropped and he's suspended through all of next season as well. But I was just surprised by the Paul McDonough thing, because I think I even texted you. I was like, didn't they say he's like not part of the investigation? And like that's what I had to go back and look for that today, because I was like, I know I'm not crazy. Like they totally said that he wasn't part of it. And yeah, I mean, I saw some people saying that if MLS actually cared, they should have reduced points for them. My question would be like, what points? They don't really have any points.
Just blank them. I don't know. Just get rid of all their points and then make them move to like Montreal where they can't play anymore.
They have 8 points this season.
So yeah, maybe deduct 7. 8. I don't know, 8. Like, I don't like point deduction unless it's going to come after the season, only because I don't really know how you would determine like how many. And that's the thing about the fine. I'm like, that's such a specific like number.
Oh, for the allocation.
Yeah, it's like, how did they come up with like usually it's a straight like.
I think they had to have come up with it in a way of like
what their
when they did math. Yeah, of like, okay, well, you had these extra DPs. If you would have bought them down with allocation money, it would have been this much. So we fine you this much, maybe. I don't know, because that is very specific.
And so then ownership doesn't get any sanctions. It's just this one person, which makes it really kind of strange. I mean, they're eventually.
Well, it's McDonough and Jorge Mas gets a slap on the wrist. Fine. Right. But yeah, nothing about Beckham getting a fine.
Right.
That was never going to happen. They were never going to be like. I mean, they gave him this team for pretty much a huge discount, so they're not going to be like. They don't want to tarnish the name of Beckham in the league as well. That's why I feel like somebody had to know this was coming down the line, I think, because you have McDonough leave in December.
Mm-hmm.
You have Beckham at the end of last season be like, I'm going to be more hands-on now because I'm upset with how bad we were. But was it more of a like, if I say I'm more hands-on now, people can excuse I wasn't hands-on when this was going down. Maybe that's me being a little cynical or not, but I don't think it's a surprise that he put a lot of his people in, like Phil Neville, and he started taking more of a like, what if he was still involved last year, but he's like, oh, what if I just like nobody's reported I've been involved. What if I just say I'm just getting involved now after like somebody tips him off that this thing's going to happen. McDonough leaves. He's like, I got to get out of there. And then, he's like, well, they can't associate me with it if I just get hands on now, so I can't get it fined or anything. But I don't think they would have fined him anyway.
I think that the punishment is big enough to where it kind of deters any other club from really trying this too. I mean, this is really kind of skeezy, to be honest. You're fudging numbers for, I don't know, like what's not really an advantage because none of those players have really kind of pan out. So, it's good enough because it'll scare the other clubs that may be involved with different things, and that's what you need. If they came down a little lighter, then there's clubs out there that might do this more often and try to really go up against the line and maybe not cross it. So I like the punishment. I think that it's good enough, and I think that Miami fans are going to be upset with the ownership and everything because I think that everybody's in charge of kind of checking each other and making sure that the club's operating in the way it needs. But yeah, it's it's a dumpster fire, and we knew it was somewhat in the preseason. We knew it was going to be bad, but like this will hurt for a couple years.
This is bigger than I thought it would be. Yeah.
This is bad for a club that is trying to get up off the ground. This is bad for maybe their stadium that they've been talking about. This is bad just all around, where that drive pink might just be the stadium now. And yeah, this is rough, but it needed to happen so that this league doesn't turn into kind of a laughing stock when it comes to this stuff.
Hey, you know what? This is more than UEFA's done for some of their violations, looking at City and
ignoring them all.
Yeah, like, oh, you appealed. All right, yeah, never mind.
They were just kidding. Yeah.
By the way, I just want to say we're recording this during the Brentford-Swansea game. Brentford is up 2-0. They just had one bounce almost over the line. Mm-hmm. They've had 4 shots, 2 on target, then the one that almost just went in. It's 23 minutes in, and it looks like Brentford is well on its way to breaking that curse that we talked about on Stoppage Time Soccer Show of being like the team that's reached this final the most and not getting in, and it looks like they're going to get in unless there's something drastic happens.
Parity in the Premier League. You never hear much about it, but it's coming. So
let's talk some NWSL. Let's talk the main part of the show here. So I have their where is it? Here it is. Let me move that closer to all my other stuff. Okay. I have the current standings as we currently sit here. Orlando Pride in first, 7 points out of 3 games. All these teams have played 3 except for Reign and Gotham FC. So you have the Pride in first, the North Carolina Courage in second with 4 points, Racing Louisville in third with 4 points, Reign in fourth with 4 points. You have New Jersey, New York, Gotham in fifth place with 4 points out of 2 games. Chicago Red Stars in sixth with 4 points. Washington Spirit in seventh with 4 points. Portland Thorns in 8th with 3 points. And 9th place, Kansas City NWSL, great name right now. They're in 9th with 2 points. And Houston Dash in 10th. What is it about these Houston teams? Are in 10th. Now, this is Kansas City NWSL's first season after they switched from Utah Royals again back to Kansas City. So that's why they have kind of like a basic crest and name. I assume that'll change. Racing Louisville, this is their first full season in the league as well. So they're doing pretty well to start the season. We had a rebrand from Sky Blue FC to the New Jersey, New York Gotham FC, which is great. Look at this crest here. If you haven't looked it up, Google NJNY Gotham FC. I'm a big Batman guy, so I love anytime Gotham's in a name. I know that's a name for New York as well, but I need like a kit or a scarf that says Gotham FC on it. I need it. But I like the Lady Liberty and the crest there. I think that's really great. It's much better than Sky Blue FC's if you want to look that up. So lots of new rebrands, new teams, all this stuff going on. But the Pride are in first. That is Logan's team. He could go see some games with his season ticket. Nice kit you have on there and everything. What's your thoughts here? Alex Morgan leads the league with goals 3. I mean, it's only been 3 games, but she leads the league. She's, a brand new mother. She's back on the pitch. Her and Sydney Leroux together in Orlando. But what's your thoughts on the Pride? They also have, Marta.
Yeah, it's fun because, and that's what I told Ashley. I said, I'm going to bring you back for a Pride game just because the girls that have come through the Pride system and playing for that organization, I was like, there's legends. Alex Morgan's a legend for the U.S. Marta's a legend for Brazil. You've got Ashlyn Harris. You've got Ali Krieger. You've got people that have been on these teams that have just dominated the world, especially our girls for the U.S. And they're a lot of fun to watch. I think watching Alex Morgan play, you're starting to see her get back to that like scary form because they when she's coming back after birthing her child, she comes back and you're wondering like how much time does she need to get back up to speed. I think she's found it. I mean, this last game that I saw, the one goal that she had was just unbelievable. She had it to where it was Taylor Korniak puts one up, kind of lofts it over, and she's really good. I mean, they just got her out of college. I forget where exactly she was in school, but she lofts one up over, and Alex Morgan kind of takes a volley off the ground and kicks it through. And that was just like an Alex Morgan goal. And then Alex Morgan celebrations are one of the best. Just watching her kind of the wheels turning as she's thinking about, hey, I'm going to score here. What am I going to do? She's had a Ted Lasso celebration, which everybody got a kick out of. But being able to go down the street and watch probably the best U.S. player that we've had in a long time play soccer is something that's quite amazing. I think that, the girls that you can go and see on a nightly basis based on who is where and who's coming into town, it's a lot of fun. But getting to watch like 3 people that I grew up watching in World Cups because they are just dominant in World Cups. Being able to see Alex Morgan, being able to go down the street and see Sydney Leroux, 2 that are up in the top of the league in scoring this year, leading an Orlando Pride team that's got a beautiful stadium because they play where Orlando City plays. They've got a great fan base. They've got good support, and just being able to enjoy soccer on both sides, men and women. It's a lot of fun because they're both unbeaten right now. So that's a cool thing to kind of celebrate. And then the Will family coming in and maybe bringing in more talent, more money. It's a pretty exciting time in Orlando, and being able to watch 2 really good goalkeepers in Ashlyn Harris and then Pedro Galisi just kind of dominate between the posts. Is a lot of fun. And then you got Olympics coming up. So you're like, hey, I can go see Alex Morgan before she heads off and hopefully wins an Olympic gold medal with the U.S. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast. I watched the game on Wednesday, and it was a really good game. They beat Portland, which is a very tough team in the NWSL. And as they add more teams, I think it's going to get even better.
The game that you just talked about against Portland was on Paramount Plus. That was on Wednesday. Friday, they had the Courage versus Racing Louisville on Twitch, on their official Twitch channel. Courage won that one 5-0. They're a perennial contender every year, the Courage. So they're right below as well. Today, the May 29th game, there is a Houston Dash versus Chicago Red Stars at 7:30 on CBS Sports Network. And that's the only game today. And then they don't have another game.
They play Monday.
They have a game tomorrow. They have a game tomorrow. They have some.
Oh yeah, tomorrow. Sorry. Yeah.
Tomorrow they have the Gotham FC versus Portland Thorns, 3 p.m. on Paramount Plus. That's at Red Bull Arena. 6 o'clock Orlando Pride versus Kansas City NWSL. That's on 6 o'clock on Paramount Plus. And then the OL Reign versus Washington Spirit at 7 o'clock on Paramount Plus. And then they have a break until June 5th. Just like, then they only play on the weekends, no midweek games this upcoming week. So interesting here. OL Reign, that is a team that was purchased. It's based in Tacoma. It's, originally the Seattle Reign. They recently switched to, when did they switch to OL Reign? They switched in 2020. Yeah, that's why I'm still not used to it. So like the Seattle Reign used to play in Seattle. Now they play in Tacoma. I think the same stadium Tacoma Defiance play at. Yes. Oh, and there's doing a new soccer-specific stadium that's going to host Reign and Tacoma Defiance games that is currently in the works. So that's good. I guess it was just too much money to have them in the same one as Seattle.
Sounders,
yeah, the Lumen Field, because renting that is probably expensive for a team. Like, I'm not sure how much the Reign used to pull in, but I don't like that they were. I don't like their new look.
It looks very like French. Like I saw them playing, and this is before I started following, obviously, but I saw it playing. I think it was like, it was Challenge Cup, and I saw the name, and I'm like, why are there French teams over here playing in the NWSL? And then I had to look, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's their rebrand. Okay, I get you.
Do you know why?
Do I know French? No, it doesn't make sense. I can't think of anything.
They are now owned by the people that own Olympic Lyon.
So that's
why they're OL Reign.
That makes sense. All right, yeah. So I wasn't too far off. Yeah, no, it's very it seems like they're just displaced over here.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, okay, little rant time. We always get on MLS about European names and such. This is it for the NWSL. The Reign name is still cool and awesome, but I don't like when they don't have some sort of the city's name in the title. So having it OL Reign, like, I remember the Seattle Reign, and I had to look up, like, oh, this is still Seattle, right? Because there's no Seattle in the name anymore. Instead, the ownership put their name in it to link them with Olympic Lyon instead of, because the European leagues for women over there is getting bigger as well. So they wanted to, I guess, have some sort of almost like an NYCFC type of thing with them, I guess, break into this market. But I'm just not a big fan of, look, there's a few things NWSL does better than MLS, which is sometimes the kits are better. You have some of the names are better. Like Gotham FC. This is something where this is kind of like my idea for a Baltimore team. You're taking something that New York is known for and putting that in the name instead of just New York FC. It's New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC, right? You're claiming both of those areas. But also, like, if I was to do Baltimore, I would say Charm City Soccer Club or something. Something where it's not just Baltimore FC. So that way you're using a nickname of the city to help identify your team, which is what Gotham has done since switching from Sky Blue. And just looking at all of these teams, you get that with like Chicago Red Stars instead of Chicago FC or whatever, Orlando Pride, the North Carolina Courage. Like, these have like a mix of old school names with the new names. But Portland Thorns is great with Portland Timbers, like it's Rose City, so you have the Thorns. It's great, but then you have things like OL Reign, and it just feels like it misses that. Like, why should anybody in Seattle be a fan of the Reign if it doesn't have any sort of identifying marks with their city type of thing? That's what I always wonder.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah. I don't like it. You're right. It's the only one that doesn't have any kind of link back to, kind of that tradition that they have with the city. But yeah, I do like all the ones that they currently have. Like Racing Louisville is a cool name. And I really do like their crest. It's very interesting. It's unique. Again, why do owners just get so far away and removed from what makes them so unique to their own cities is just beyond me, because it wouldn't be a choice that I would be sitting there actively thinking, like, how can I change this name to make it look like it's not belonging to any of these cities?
Right.
So,
yeah. So that's my little rant on that. What I do want to talk about as well here, have you heard about this, the 15-year-old player, as I just said there, 15-year-old player, Olivia Moultrie, if I said that right. Have you heard of her?
Yes, I heard the whole interesting saga with Portland.
Yes. So this girl wants to play professionally. She doesn't want to go to college right now. It doesn't seem like she wants to play professionally, and she's making the claim. She's suing. I'm not sure if she's suing the league itself, or I think she is. She is suing because she says that anywhere else in the world she'd be able to play. So she thinks it's like an antitrust type of thing, which is, usually these leagues have no problems with that kind of thing. But so she's 15 years old, and a federal judge temporarily ordered to lift its age rule, which requires players to be at least 18 years old. Why is this even a rule? I don't know. MLS, she could play at 15 years old if she wanted to. And I think that's part of her claim as well. But a judge decided, okay, you have to temporarily lift this age rule. So then Portland Thorns were like, okay, let's make a discovery claim on her as soon as we can, right? Because they want her.
Yeah.
And the league rejected the claim. And Paul Tenorio had a great little bit about this yesterday as well. But the league said it was working on drafting new discovery rules for young players that could take several weeks. Why? So here's what the attorney said as well. The family and lawyers are disappointed in the league's decision and think it's inconsistent with the letter or the spirit of the court's ruling. And I would agree with them. The judge lifted this so that she could be able to sign, theoretically, right? Hey, this is kind of like discrimination a bit. Other places in the world, even here in MLS, you can play at 15. So lift it. They lift it, and then Thorns are like, all right, let's get her. And then the league's like, no, because now we have to take weeks to find out a new discovery claim for younger players. Why? What's wrong with the discovery claim that works now? What do you have to change? It's just to push it down, like Tenorio said, kicking the can down the road a little bit longer to try to figure out, all right, what do we do with this, type of thing. And I think it's messed up. I think part of it is, obviously, NWSL has been a place for 8 years where some of our women's team and other players in the world that are kind of older have been able to play. And it's been one of the premier places for women's soccer. So if you have this talent of all these young people that are 15, 16 years old that starts coming in, you're not going to be able to play Marta that's 35 or 36 anymore. You're going to push some of those players out of the view a bit because everybody's going to start looking for younger, cheaper talent. And that is probably something that they're concerned about, and I can understand that a bit. But it sounds to me that she's kind of like a once-in-a-generation type of talent if she's 15 going into here. So I don't think that you would come across this issue all the time. But what's your thoughts on it, Logan? How do you see this going on?
I think it's tough because in comparison, and it's tough to compare, but the ability to play a 14-year-old in any professional sport, 15-year-old I could see where ethically the league's I don't know if that's a good idea. If we give the opportunity to this 15-year-old to go travel wherever she wants to travel or he wants to travel, a 15-year-old is still a minor, so is going to be for a while. So I don't know if there's different rules and regulations that the league's hey, you're going to have a guardian with this person, or I don't know how that all works. If you had a 14 or 15-year-old traveling with an NWSL team that's going to these hotels and staying by themselves and traveling and eating and doing everything else that, a normal professional team would do, handling the press, handling her image rights, handling everything else, I'm sure is factoring into some of this. But then again, it's also not fair if you're going to allow 15, 16, 17-year-old men to play, then it is discrimination against women. Like you can't say that, oh yeah, they can do it, but I don't know about female side of it. I don't know if they can necessarily play. But you're right. I think it's also a threat to some of these older players. If you had 16, 17, 18-year-olds, because maybe the college the college stage for women isn't as comparative. Like if they can just jump that and go straight to pro and they get paid, then why not do it? It's the same in like the NBA. It's the same. If you can play it professional, then why not just jump to professional? What if she gets hurt, right? What if Olivia, tears an ACL or does something in her high school or college career that ends her chances to go professional, instead of going straight to professional and having those doctors and those people to kind of take care of her body and her health. So maybe there's some logistics with age. Maybe that's why the league was so against this. But I side on the side of just, this is a professional club. This is a group of professionals. This girl has, like you said, generational talent. So let her play. Let her, if you're going to let 15 and 16-year-olds play in other leagues, then you've got to do the same for NWSL. And I think that while, yes, there's an allure to it, I think that it does kind of hurt the older players because they're going to get pushed out like a Marta. I mean, you're going to start seeing older players not be as valuable here in this league because NWSL is just brand new and they don't have as much money yet. Then you might see some of these clubs start reaching out to 16, 17, 18-year-olds, bypass the college experience and come play for my professional team, and we can develop you here over those years. So I don't know. It's tough. But if it's a talent like this, then I could see the league, why it would be so intriguing to have her on the pitch and playing with, like she's playing with Alex Morgan at the age of 15 when she should be a sophomore in high school. So
right,
like that's mind blowing to me, just because you wouldn't see it in most sports. A 15-year-old that can just step right in and play, but they think that she could. So I want to see it, like for my own personal just entertainment. But I think that, yeah, I mean, it's discrimination, so you can't really tell her no. Like if she's following all the rules and she makes that life choice, then I guess then let her do what she wants. I don't know.
So Moultrie testified in court last week that she was only asking for a chance to play soccer in the U.S. professionally, like girls her age who can play abroad or American boys now do in the U.S. This is from an article on OregonLive.com. Here's how in deep she is with the Thorns already. She currently practices with the Thorns, plays in unofficial scrimmages and preseason games against other professional teams, and has her own locker in the Thorns locker room. That's how,
it's like an academy.
Yeah, exactly. So she should be able to play.
Yeah.
Now, the league's general counsel pretty much said what you said, Logan. They said that they're worried about safety for minors in sporting environments, hours played, and wages earned, and labor restrictions that vary by state depending on where the teams travel to play. What?
But does that apply to men?
Right. And also, wouldn't it just be based not where you're playing? Wouldn't it be like Portland's rules, Oregon's rules? Because that's where that's her employer is based in Oregon, and then she goes to California to play a game. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult. Because like you said, we have 16-year-olds and 15-year-olds make MLS, debuts and stuff. So Freddie Adu was on DC United at 14.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not really exactly sure on what if that holds up. And then one of their other attorneys who represented the league said that it is the league's sole discretion to reject any discovery player, and argued that the discovery claims process is geared for potential players who register for the draft but don't get drafted. We don't want people trying to cherry pick players and people trying to get special treatment.
It's just they
either need to figure out, one, a discovery claims process, or two, academies.
Yeah.
Start setting up women's academies for these young girls that are trying to go professional at a younger age. We have them for the men. It'll help the women's team as well, right? Even though they don't have a problem right now, 4 World Cups, but think about, the other part of the world is starting to catch up, where if you start having academies like they do, I mean, look, you have teams like Chelsea Women's, that's really good team, and all these teams overseas, some of the French teams, I think Lyon is a really good team as well, which is why they probably bought the Reign. But why can't they start setting up academies then?
Yeah, I think it's
money thing.
Money, yeah. It's money. But that being said, why not adopt? So have Portland, you have an official, unofficial academy in these travel teams, because there's a couple of girls that play travel soccer that I teach, and they're 15, 16, 18. They play for these travel ball teams. And so why not deem hey, this travel ball team in the state is a funnel system, basically homegrown rights, where you can have somebody from your state, as long as they're playing for an academy that's registered with NWSL. So have those academies playing in a league that's specifically NWSL related, sponsor it, whatever you have to do. But it's not technically NWSL, but it's I can make a rule there where I can go get somebody from this state that is 16, 17,
right?
And I can have them on my team as and maybe limit it to 3 or 4 players at a time or something like that, or a squad of academies. So you could have a squad of 11 of younger kids that are playing soccer that you could pick from to have on your roster. So I think that is something that the NWSL should look at, because MLS they're now ramping up to where all their teams are, and even they're having a hard time because of money of having these academies and what those academies look like. So I think that NWSL, again, it's a money thing, but I think you could form some kind of partnership with either the colleges or somebody, where it's you could have these feeder systems, just because there's nowhere to grow the game if you don't have the ability.
You can't rely on the draft every year.
Yeah, and they always say that in MLS too. They're you get 1 or 2 really good players out of the draft. The other ones come from academies. So it makes no sense. That's a reason why the Europeans don't do the draft. It's because it's a very hit or miss, because soccer is so large that they're going in and trying to find these 16, 17, 18-year-old, 15-year-olds that are just tearing it up at their level. And if she's practicing with the Thorns anyway, then, I mean, you sign liability, you sign waivers, and I'm pretty sure you can require, I think all minors have to travel with a parent anyway at a certain age. So why make it any different? I don't get it. I don't understand. People could go to a high school game and absolutely just start leveling into people if they really wanted to. They would get kicked out, but they would in professional sports anyway too, if they're out there throwing out racial slurs or whatever it might be. So trying to protect them on the field, that one doesn't make sense to me. If you can't protect players on a field, that becomes your stadium's issue, not that. So again, they're 15. She's a minor, but she's getting to that age where she can start to consent to different things, where she can have her images elsewhere. Okay, so for instance, children modeling, the same kind of thing. They're making money. They're using their rights. They're signing
actors,
actors,
and
right?
Stuff, yeah.
So this is it's such crap, because a lot of times in the United States, you just know that the undercurrent is just discrimination towards women, and it's gross. It's not fair. How come the 15-year-old can go and play for Orlando City on a nightly basis, go home and do his homework, but the girl wants to go play, and they're I don't know, it might be a little dangerous for you. Yeah. I mean, it's such a discriminatory, sexist. It's gross. So I just don't like that they've got to butt their heads into this and go, she can't play. Well, why?
Well, good for Olivia, though. She's not taking no for an answer.
Yeah, right.
I like that. I like that, because there could have been other 15-year-olds that have tried this and are no, sorry. And you're okay, I guess I have to wait. I think Tenorio brought up an example of a 17-year-old that the contract was announced when they were 17, but didn't kick in until they were 18. But, why could the discovery claim work for them? Even though, I guess, because the contract didn't take effect until they're 18, but why didn't the league just automatically reject the claim if they were 17? It becomes this whole thing of they don't want these teams cherry picking players, but it almost seems like the NWSL is cherry picking things right now. And what I wonder too is, how could you not think this was ever going to come up?
Right.
When you see players like Connor Connor Cade and you know, like Caden Clark.
I thought you were gonna say Connor Cody. I was like,
yeah. When you see like you know, Caden Clark, Brendan Aronson, Paxton Aronson, and all these people getting signed super young, playing with this team for a while, and then making moves abroad, which maybe she ultimately wants to do, or maybe she just wants to play here. But, you know, she wants to get her name out there. She wants to play professionally, and they have the rights to. She doesn't. How could nobody in NWSL say, hey, what are we going to say when somebody challenges this?
Or if U.S.
their excuse is not good enough.
Yeah. What if U.S. Soccer came? I guarantee they'd let her play then. If U.S. Soccer came to her and said or came to the courts and said this is a great player, we need her on our roster to go to the Olympics. 900. She makes that roster every time, so it's sketchy to me.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about in NWSL? I know we didn't spend too much time on the actual games, but we talked a big story here. I
was just going to say, kind of getting caught up because we're going to start covering it on these episodes, so kind of getting caught up on the league. We did that. But I think the other thing that I really like to speak to, and, you know, having watched an interview, I think she was on the Cooligans that I saw her on. Lisa Baird, who's the commissioner for NWSL, has been at the forefront with the 2020 Challenge Cup, the 2021 Challenge Cup, or what do they call it? The one that She Believes tournament too. So like you have all these cool tournaments taking place with women's soccer here in the United States, and I think that women's soccer has always been huge here. Yeah, and I would argue even more so than the men's because they've been World Cup contenders ever since I can remember. Like ever since I started following and watching soccer, where I could remember soccer, the women's were the ones that we look forward to because they are so competitive at that stage with Japan, with Brazil. Like it's a fun watch, and I think that the United States has the premier talent. They're going to get the premier talent here. I think that you're going to have the players start to suck in. If NWSL continues to kind of go on that trajectory, I think you're going to have a lot of the really, really, really good female athletes coming here and playing soccer, which is not like what it's like in the MLS, and nor do I ever think it will be. But you're going to have a league that, and good for them, that is going to give women's sports a real platform. I think that's why it's important. Megan Rapinoe, Alex Morgan, Sydney Leroux, like you've got really good athletes here that have a platform, and NWSL has been a great platform for LGBTQ rights. You've got systemic racism constantly being talked about by these players, and people idolize these girls. So that's like, you know, when you're talking about Olivia, I mean, think about all the young girls out there that are like, this is finally a sport that we have in the United States that is cherished amongst everybody, that are finally getting the recognition that they deserve. And this is a league that I can grow up. I'm 15, 16, 17. I can aspire to play with Alex Morgan or, you know, Julie Ertz or, you know, Lynn Williams. Like I can go play with these players and I can become something, rather than like the WNBA where people are just grossly, pessimistic towards it and say stupid stuff. Like I think the NWSL, because people in the United States have seen, which is sad that it took this, but they've seen the the women's team dominate. I think they're like, oh, well, now we can accept them. But I think it's so cool that the women have a really, really good league in this country because they needed it. And
the longest league that they've had so far. Yeah.
Right. And so just the way that Lisa Baird talks about like how important it is for young women to be able to see and compete in professional sports and write in professional sports and be broadcasters in professional sports. Like it's so cool to see like this movement, and NWSL is the one at the leading at the forefront, where WNBA has been around a while. So they've just been kind of pushing this narrative NWSL has. So I think that that's a cool thing. And as the league grows, you're starting to see it really take off here. And again, I think it has that same ilk where it can be a really dominant league here in the United States. It's getting CBS broadcasting, right? So it's a really good sport. It's a lot of fun.
Good ratings during them too.
Right. So I don't know. It's cool to see, and it's really awesome to see MLS partnering with NWSL too. Like as a season ticket holder for MLS, I get to go to 4 free games of NWSL. And if I could afford it, I would pay for NWSL season tickets too. But, you know, it's so cool to see the women's sport taking off here, and that we can go down the street and see some of the best players that's ever played this game here in the United States.
Yeah, if only Lisa Baird would let those young women play. Them, huh?
Right. She's been good about everything else, but this one, I'm like, why can't you figure out this one? Like, you've been so good with, like, systemic racism. You've been so great with women's rights. You've been so great getting women working in sports. Like, you're so progressive. But this one, like, come on, like, you get this one over the hump too, because this is something that needs to happen to grow your sport, to grow interest. And high school girls can look out there and go, that can be me in 2 or 3 years. So again, it's a platform for women and women's sports, and giving a voice to women in this country, because they've been oppressed for so long and really haven't hit that equality that you want in society. So I think this is important, and NWSL has all the tools to be able to make a difference here. So let's let Olivia play. Let's get on the even more progressive.
All right, I want to go back to Miami real quick here, because I'm not sure if anybody saw this, but if they did,
everybody.
Willian, this is from the Sun, and this is how you know that they don't pay attention to what's going on over here. Okay, Willian will 100% leave Arsenal, with Beckham's Inter Miami eyeing a move. Everybody in the comments. This was at 9 p.m. on the 9 p.m. yesterday, so this is hours after the news dropped. Everybody starts commenting. Here's some guy on Twitter. Considering Inter Miami pretty much just got handed a transfer ban, good luck. Clueless fake news British newspapers that just use Inter Miami as an easy go-to for made-up transfer rumors for washed-up players make me chuckle. And then people are like linking Tenorio's tweet about like the transfer issues, like the fines and stuff. Mm. So look, if Miami really is looking at that, congrats on probably getting another fine later on. And if they're not, like, this is why you also can't just trust these transfer rumors that come out all the time, is because especially with players being linked to MLS, if they, especially in like British papers, they'll link them to Miami, they'll link them to LA Galaxy or LAFC, and they'll link them to the Red Bulls. That's it. And then you'll have ones that, like when they're linked to like the Union or stuff, you're like, okay, maybe this actually has some legs, because they don't know about Philadelphia Union all over there. Right. But yeah, so it is funny that just like 2 hours after the news dropped of the sanctions, you have the Sun over in the UK, I guess, making up a story of Willian leaving for Miami, or Willian's agent just using that as leverage and not actually, like, Miami's probably hearing that and are like, how the hell are we doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, Miami's like, are we fudging numbers again, fellas?
They're like, I thought Paul left. I don't know what's going on.
Does he have like a nephew here or something we don't know about? I could see Willian going to Orlando. We like the Brazilian soccer players, but again, don't bring me him. No, thank you. Like, bring me a Gabriel Jesus or somebody like that. Don't bring me a Willian. I don't want any part of that. So,
yeah, he signed a 3-year deal with Arsenal, and all the Arsenal fans were telling Chelsea fans like, "Ha, he left you for us," and Chelsea fans were like, "Take him." And then Arsenal fans are like, somebody take him.
He had like a good first game.
He had like first 3 games. That was pretty much it. Yeah.
And they were like, oh my gosh, he's revived his career. He's going to be great here. And yeah, that ain't going to happen.
All right. Anything else to talk about here? I just want to say, the currently standings: Orlando Pride, Courage in 2nd, Louisville in 3rd, Reign in 4th, Gotham in 5th, Red Stars in 6th. Portland Thorns should be a little higher, but they've only played the 3 games. It's going to shake out a little differently, I'm sure. The way it works is like right now there is a spot for the NWSL Shield, which is like the supporter shield. So Pride would be winning that at this point. Then the Courage would go straight to the semifinals. Mm-hmm. And then you have the playoffs first round with Louisville, Reign, Gotham, and Red Stars occupying those spots. So it looks like the Pride and the Courage, as it stands right now, would go straight to the semifinals. The other 4 teams would battle it out to try to get to those semifinals, and then whoever wins those would go to the final. but I'm not sure how long is the season? That's what I want to know.
I want to say November is when it ends, or October, like playoffs.
Let's see, October 30th.
Yeah,
24 matches.
I was gonna say because there's not many games you can play, but I knew it was like I think it ends like a month and a half before the men's do. So.
And the playoffs start on November 6th, and the NWSL Championship is November 20th. So we'll be talking all about that. Sunday, the U.S. men's team plays, so we'll probably be talking about that next episode, as well as the MLS action that takes place mostly today, and like 2 games tomorrow or something.
Really good games tomorrow, though.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks for stopping by. Like I said, I'll probably do the closed pyramid on Monday instead, but you can follow us on Twitter at Stateside Show, Instagram at Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, TikTok, Stateside Soccer Show, and have a great rest of your week and holiday weekend.